This week on One Crazy Story, comedian Patrick Keane joins us to talk about his new comedy album and more.
So it's really nice to have something like concrete. I didn't even realize, because the time it takes when you record it for it to get edited and kind of released and set up, that by the time something happens, it's months later and you're kind of removed from it and you're like, oh yeah, cool. And then it takes a little while to get excited about this thing again.
Hello and welcome to another edition of One Crazy Story. I'm your host, Nate Armbruster, and this week I'm talking with comedian Patrick Keane. You may remember Patrick from an older episode. If you haven't heard that one, you can go back and check it out. Very funny story about going to Coachella. But this week, actually, Patrick returns to talk about his latest comedy album called Two and Two Be Foe, which you gotta listen to get the joke. But a cool thing about this project that Patrick was working on is that I got to help him with it. I actually did all of the audio, and I helped him out with the cover art as well. So please do me a favor and head over to Spotify, iTunes, all of that stuff. Buy it, download it, review it, rate it, share it with your friends, tell everybody, listen to it, go see Patrick live. He's one of my favorite comedians, and he truly is, because I kind of forced him to release this CD. It was kind of I don't want to say my idea, but I definitely begged him to do it and let me help him. So I hope he was happy with it. I know I am. I think it turned out great. He had a great set. We recorded it at Acme Comedy Club in Minneapolis, actually about exactly a year ago. It was Super Bowl weekend, and the cool thing about that is the Super Bowl was in Minneapolis. So we recorded this while all of the Super Bowl festivities were going on just down the street, which was crazy. And that was a really cool experience. I'm happy I got to be a part of this with Patrick, and I'm happy he let me help him out because, I'm pretty annoying. So anyway, he did give me permission to play a track on the intro of the podcast, so here you go.
So yeah, growing up in Orange County, mostly white, we played sports, and then when we go to the playoffs, we'd go play mixed race teams from LA, which means we'd lose in the playoffs in the first round. We played a team in Long Beach, Milliken. Long Beach is kind of where it gets a little rough. Great athletes, and we lost 88-0 in a football game, 88-0. For those of you that don't know, that's 11 touchdowns and 11 two-point conversions. They were 11 for 11. They had goalposts. They could have kicked the one, but they wanted the two. A little bit of a revenge thing going on, I think, with races sometimes in America. But so 11 for 11 two-point conversions, which is good. That's a good ratio. 88-0. And I remember looking at the scoreboard. They were telling us at one point, they were telling us where the play, they're like, we're going to be there in a few seconds if you want to put your tacklers. That's where the ball's going to be. We're going to run it that way. And I looked up the scoreboard. I'm like, 88. If they score two more touchdowns, does it max out at 99? Or does it reboot to like 6-0? And then someone late to the game will be like, oh shit, these white boys can play. So that's all good. Yeah, so I ran track for 1 year. I ran track. I was finishing ahead of a black guy in track once. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to finish ahead of this black guy in track. And someone's like, no, man, he already finished. He's just doing a cool down lap. So I was like, oh shit. So it's good. But I played. I grew up in the suburbs. A lot of hockey. I think is hockey bigger than football here? Yeah, right. Naturally, you guys are so good. Oh, they're the same? Yeah. Hockey's I think a little bigger, right?
Yeah, hockey.
Hockey's a little bit bigger. Why are all the guys quiet and the chicks are talking sports? What the fuck? Holy shit! All right, this is. I've never heard women that know more about sports, or guys are just tired of everything. Curling's bigger than both. Oh, fuck. Shit! I had all this curling material. I didn't know. I'll do that later. Yeah, I played, man, the suburbs, yeah, the dads that are crazy, right? My dad was a football guy. He's from the Midwest, obviously, and football, like, a lot of dads want their sons to be professional athletes at all costs, but they don't marry the right woman. And my dad did his part. Big guy, athletic, but if you want a son in the big leagues, you need to marry a big farm girl, right? Or a tough inner city girl, or a big, tough South Pacific Island woman. When you marry a sweet little Irish girl who likes musicals. Hey everybody, I'm Patrick Keane, all right? Super Bowl rings don't come out of trophy wife vaginas. They go into them. Is that Yeah, there are a few of you, you motherfuckers. You've been quiet the whole show. Finally mentioned vagina, and it's like, oh, cool, I'm listening. Yeah, filthy. All right.
All right, that was a track off of Patrick Keane's latest album, Two and Two Be Foe. Now go listen to it and buy it. Get in touch with him. Tell him how much you loved it. And go see him live. He's one of the best. He truly is one of my favorite comedians. All right, so that's enough from me. If you haven't had a chance yet, subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, all that good stuff. Share it with your friends. Tell your friends if you like my podcast. And if you don't like it, why are you listening? That's, complete waste of your time. But thank you so much for listening, guys. I really do appreciate it. Now enjoy this week's episode with myself and comedian Patrick Keane. So let's start there, because you're from Toledo, so you kind of have some Michigan Midwest roots, but you grew up in Orange County, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I was born in Toledo, Ohio, and then my dad took a job transfer out to Orange County, California.
So that means you started comedy in California, in like LA, basically.
Yeah. I moved up to LA in 2000 and started doing stand-up. I always wanted to do comedy in some capacity, whether it was, stand-up or sketch or act or just write. And I was like, well, the quickest way to get seen is doing stand-up, and then you can kind of make your bones from there a little. And I just never got out of stand-up for whatever reason. It just never went that bad. Actually, it did, but for some reason I stayed in, and because I would have loved it, just been a comedic actor or a sketch guy, but I really didn't have the balls to get into it until I was out of college. And by then, what are you going to take theater classes and sketch classes and writing? I mean, I guess I could have done that too, but stand-up was just the quickest. At the time I started, I was 27, and I was like, I got to get going here.
Yeah, stand-up is like you just start. There's really no like.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can't anything in show business. You can't really you can't say there's like do this, and this, and you'll end up here. It's not like it's not like a traditional path to succeed. So it's kind of like stand-up. It's just like, we'll just jump in and see where you go. But that can take you so many places, I mean, like you said, sketch or any sort of acting. I mean, you can do a lot of shit.
Yeah, you can. You really can. Once you can do stand-up and make a living at it, then you're kind of set. And, you go do podcasts or you go do a YouTube page. And I know that a lot of great shows have writers on them who were great stand-ups who don't really do stand-up anymore. I know like Eddie Gosling writes for Top 20, and Bob Oshak is a great guy, and he writes for Bill Maher, and Brian Keith Etheridge writes on shows, and Mark Gross, and it's countless, right? Dwayne Kennedy is a great comic out of Chicago that writes for Kamal Bell.
You have to know how to write a joke, and stand-ups, that's what stand-ups do. So you get good at writing jokes, you can get those jobs,
Absolutely, and if you know the perspective of the comic or the writer or the POV point of view of the show, then that's huge. If you can get somebody else's voice, because a lot of guys, I mean, you and I both know so many comics that could never write for anybody but themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But
do you think you would have done stand up had you grown up in Toledo?
That's a great question, man. I don't know. I think I would have stayed kind of in the football world,
right?
My dad, he was a big salesman, and not only that, but he coached football, and he was just he was kind of a John Madden figure, and big blonde-haired guy, and go get him, tackle the day, stuff like that. I'm not quite that. I'm kind of between that and my mom, who's very soft-spoken and, likes musicals.
That you do a great joke about that on the album, actually, as you know.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect.
But it's a good.
Thank you.
But it's a good example. I guess it makes sense you would kind of stick in the sports world because that's kind of how you would have grown up out here. But
I think so. I think it would have been a lot more sports and probably gone to a mid-American college.
Yeah.
Like so many of my cousins, and I don't know. I think maybe. Had I gone to Toledo or stayed in Toledo, I think I would have. Because I lived in Michigan while going to school in Toledo.
Okay.
So I think after school or during school, maybe going to a mid-American school, I would have either gone to Detroit or Chicago or Toronto to do sketch, to do a more structured approach.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's what I would have leaned towards, because I exhausted my sports career pretty. I think I was 19.
Yeah, you're like, this is it. This is where we're calling it.
Yeah, it's just not happening. I mean, you can tell too if you go to camps. I went to a UCLA camp one summer with other high school kids, and it was kids from all over the state, basically, which California's loaded with talent. And I'm just like, this is a joke. Like,
yeah.
I'm not big. I'm not as big, solid, strong, quick, tough as anybody else here. Like, and the ball's coming at me 10 times faster. I'm like, I'm going to break fingers. Just doing the right thing. I'm going to break fingers.
Yeah. That,
like, get me out of this.
When you really think about sport, you look at like any professional league too. Like you look at the worst player in any professional sport, they're still amazing at that game. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's sick. Yeah,
like the worst person on the field is still better than 90% of the country.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. It's so funny that people say, could Alabama beat a college team or a pro team? There's no way. There's just no way. I mean, they're a semi-pro team at best. There really aren't even that many Alabama alumni in the NFL for all their national titles. Weirdly, there's not as many as you'd think. They're a great team, but yeah, that level, the pro level, is just insane. It's DNA combined with the right mindset, combined with the right environment that whatever individual is raised in.
I can see a Patrick Keane in the NFL. The nice thing is now you could just buy a jersey and get your name put on it. You could do that. Pick your favorite.
Yeah, I just saw Gary Coleman. I saw
that. That's what I was just
jersey today on Twitter.
That's exactly why I said that, because I just saw him put up that picture, and I was like, that's great. You could just cut right to the chase and just get the exact jersey.
Absolutely. I think Swartzen does it with Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
It's great.
Because you can't really do that. If you want to be a great comedian, you can't just buy a comedy jersey and put your name on it. That's weird.
Yeah. No, you cannot just buy your way into that. That's true.
Anyway,
That's so funny.
So yeah, so what do you got going? I know you just put out is this your first album? Would you say, like, first one that you
really
released officially?
There was another one I did, kind of a what do you call it? Thrown together, kind of guerrilla style, a few years ago, maybe a decade ago. That I don't know. Man, I don't know what that was. It was it's called Bootlegged, Alive, Bootlegged, and Kicking or something. Which, my God, I don't know that anybody listens to that on the planet. But
yeah.
But this is the first legit thing, and it's on iTunes and Amazon.
Yeah, you can get it everywhere.
And you can get it on Google and Spotify. So I think that'll hit some of the Sirius XM comedy stations. And, it's good. It was in a great environment, that kind of low ceiling for my style. It's great. I'm not really a big theater comic. I'm not a Dane Cook or something where you're doing a whole arena, or a Kevin Hart.
Right. No, I know what you mean, because
it's more conversational.
What's really cool, what I like about this, and not to obviously because I was there, but the whole thing kind of came together. The first time I met you in Toledo, we worked together, and then I realized you had some Michigan roots, and I was like, wait, what? And we kind of hung out over the course of the weekend, and we just started talking, and I'm like, and I've been kind of getting started recording people, and doing all this editing and stuff. And I asked you why you didn't have one out, and you just kind of said, I don't know, I just never, no real reason. You just never did it, or never had no one's ever asked you about it.
Yeah.
And I almost, I don't want to say I forced you to do this, but I kind of made you do it. And that's not me taking credit. It's just me being annoying. But I just think you're so funny. I was like, you got to have something out there. And, it's not, you might not win a Grammy, but I mean, it's still a thing. It's still a thing that's out there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, man.
So I'm glad it worked out.
Even if it's a 5 or 10 minute piece, you need some freaking footage and documentation that says you're here on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah, man. In 200 years, someone's going to be on Spotify. Who's this Patrick Keane?
Yeah, right. Right? Just some little file in the universe, some future civilization finds these things, and they're like, oh, cool. But I'm glad you did, and that's really what helps, because comics do so much for comics. I can't believe all the great comics that are nice enough to favorite and retweet and post about this album coming out. Friends that for years. Some really made it in the biz. Some are still fighting to get, some success. So yeah, I really appreciate you having done that, because, living in LA especially, you just get so discouraged. My God, there's a lot of people doing it. It's watered down. Industry people are in your kind of ear too soon.
Yeah.
And you're worried about industry too soon. And, a lot of the wrong stuff gets rewarded.
That's true.
And if you're a jackass idiot like me, you take that stuff to heart too much instead of having perspective and going, all right, they're not going to last, or all I have to do is keep writing, keep creating. So it's really nice to have something like concrete. I didn't even realize because, the time it takes when you record it for it to get edited and kind of released and set up, that by the time something happens, it's months later and you're kind of removed from it and you're like, oh, yeah, cool. And then it takes a little while to get excited about this thing again.
Yeah, it's officially out now. It's out there. And we recorded it at Acme in Minneapolis, which is kind of cool because actually, this was a few things about this weekend. It kind of worked out perfectly because, one, that's one of the best clubs in the country, easily, probably top five, easy. And then, and I don't know how often, are you there, like, just kind of whenever, or like once a year do you get in there?
There's such a great rotation there. Yeah, there's such a competitive rotation. I'm probably there once for 2 years.
Okay, yeah. So this,
which is good. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah, especially when a club like that is as in demand when you're a comic. I mean, everybody wants to work there. So like the fact that you can get in every 2 years, it's amazing. Especially being from LA.
Yeah.
So.
It's great. Swartzen got me in because he's from there.
Oh yeah. Did you guys do it together, or was this well after he had blown up?
The first time it was first time was a long time ago, and I went there to open for him, and it was just before he started doing theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And Lewis, I guess, liked my set enough, or I came highly recommended from Nick or something.
Oh, good.
And he started headlining me right away, so that really worked out nice. And I've gone back a few times just to feature because like a friend was headlining.
Yeah. And, that feature spot is just so, it's like, just show up, crush for 25 minutes, and then just, go eat.
It really is, because not only are you doing less time, you're doing it in the middle of the show. It's like a headliner has to go up later when the audience is a little more exhausted, a little more drunk, and do longer. So you have to have, it's not just a matter of having 30 versus 45. You got to have a 45 minimum that's good enough to keep their attention at an hour and a half point in the show. So there are some tricks to it. And then, some people are lucky enough just to bypass that. Like you get on TV enough and then people are like, oh, we're just going to go to watch the celebrity, not the comic.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've seen different like big names do different tricks. Like they'll go up and maybe MC the show and they do 10 in the beginning, 15 in the middle, and then 30 at the end.
I met you out in Minneapolis, and it was like the perfect weekend because it was Super Bowl weekend, which is just, and the Super Bowl was in Minneapolis, like right down the street. You're like 2 miles from everything.
Yeah, there were so many people in town and so much excitement, and it was a great Super Bowl.
Yeah, you were in Omaha for Thanksgiving. Is this your first Thanksgiving on the road?
No, I've been on the road plenty. Yeah,
because I think the first weekend,
I didn't give a shit about that.
Nah, Thanksgiving I don't think really is a big deal to miss.
So yeah, man. So that's good. So yeah, I'm traveling. I'm doing that. I'm trying to sell a show. I don't know if I told you about Mascots, the show idea I have. Where I go from team to team. Yeah, that's what I've been working on lately.
Are you writing? Or is it scripted?
It's loosely scripted. It's like Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown, but it's
okay, all right, that's great, man.
And I just go, it's fun. I go school to school, team to team, and I just kind of break down the history and culture behind every team's mascot. And it's something I've always been passionate about because I moved around a lot as a kid, and I love sports, and I do like traveling. I do like staying in markets, no matter how small.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the club they have is terrible, I enjoy like the geography part of it and the travel part of it.
So, are you going through any? Are you going to like colleges and universities, or are you doing like professional sports, minor league sports, any sport in particular? Or?
Well, we shot a sample episode at Cal State Fullerton, which is in Southern Cal, which is in Orange County, and they have a big baseball program and a big women's gymnastics, a bunch of national titles there. And so we shot kind of a spec, and I'm trying to sell that around the country to other schools. I think college is the best place to start because there's so many. There's hundreds and thousands of colleges. Whereas for pro baseball and pro football, pro hockey, all these teams have 30, 32 teams. So I think you start in the colleges and just get all those. And I'd like to start with smaller colleges so I can really kind of perfect episodes, how we shoot, how we keep it interesting, how we keep it relevant. and then from there, go and do pro football, pro baseball, pro hockey, pro basketball. I'd love to do like minor league baseball. I'd love to do the WNBA, Canadian football, Japanese baseball, Premier League soccer, World Olympics, World Cup, all that stuff, and just do hundreds of teams. And I think
it's endless.
Something I could do for my whole career. Yeah, it's endless. And you usually got the mascot. Everyone's team's got like a mascot they started with back in the 1800s or early 1900s. And then they changed, and and then they've got an actual mascot. Like, hey, we're called the the Raccoons, but we've got Ricky, who's our main guy. Who like Ricky goes around town. So you've got the raccoon to study from like a geographical like indigenous perspective. Like, oh, are there raccoons in this area? Like, for example, Michigan has Central Michigan Chippewas, I think.
Yes.
Or the Western Michigan Broncos, or the Wolverines, or obviously Spartans. And you just study like the biology behind the environment, and you get scientists or anthropologists or meteorologists, and you study that, and you do kind of a comedic take on actual science and history.
That's great,
about
man.
These mascots, whether it's a Native American reservation or some kind of tribal lifestyle thing. I love doing it,
That's such a great idea. And so you shot you shot like a little pilot, and you're trying to.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, we shot. Yeah, it's a nice like 12-minute piece, and then we have a nice 5-minute piece.
Good.
As well, and it's fun. I love it, and it's kind of what I call it is like PBS meets Buffalo Wings. Like kind of those.
That's great. That's the log line right there. That's the
log line.
That's the log line.
Just the log line. and I just think between alumni and professors and just blue collar sports fans and the Walmart audience, all that stuff, I think it could be a great tie-in.
I think that's great because I think it kind of marries your two passions, comedy and sports. And you can't go wrong with that. Because they're both of them are genuine interests of yours, like, okay, how do I make this entertaining? Also, I get to learn and experience like sports cultures from all over the country, all over the world, really. Yeah,
I think it could be fun, and it's something I'm genuinely interested in. I'd love to do it, and I love talking. I'll talk to college administrators or high school administrators or people on the boards or the councils that decide a lot of that stuff. I enjoy talking education and admissions and history and sports and fan bases and trivia. You involve the students and the alumni. Hopefully local trivia stuff could be fun, like a trivia night competition, or you go around, do man on the street segments asking townies or students to sing the fight song.
I'm glad you could find some time to do this with me. Another podcast, because you've done this before with me. We did it, I think, probably in Toledo. I think when we talked about your trip to Coachella or whatever. But
Jesus, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and but anyway, thanks for doing this again, man. And you're on the road a bunch. You're somewhere else every week. Do you have a website or anything people can get your dates from, or?
Yeah, they can go to they go to YouTube, Keane of Comedy, Keane, Keane, Keane of Comedy, and they'll see the clips. They'll see stand-up clips. They'll see silly shows. I was in a couple episodes of Henry Phillips' Junior Coffee and Henry's Kitchen, and some of that insanity. And then you can see Twit This Week in Tweets.
Yes,
which I played the Twit, just reading my tweets, and.
So the album's out, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put links to all of this stuff, all of your stuff in the description of this episode, so everybody can just, find it that way. It'll be right there, easy for everyone to find, and I'll make sure I tell everybody on the internet about it as well. And actually, would you mind if I...
You did great. You did great art on it, and you gave me the title, Two and Two Be So. It's such a good idea.
I'm glad you liked it.